What is going on YouTube and Spotify? This is the Just BSN podcast. This is episode 13. Man, we got a lot to talk about. And before we have anything else to talk about, let's go ahead and address the big win this week. Not Browns related, but the Columbus Crew bringing it home for good old-fashioned Ohio. Columbus Crew are the 2023 MLS champions. Andrew, I know you were so stoked about this. I know you were really happy. He even hit on some bets as well. So I'm gonna let you take the floor on this because this is your shit, baby.
No, dude, it's crazy, man. I hit on those bets. I also hit on the score prediction too because last episode I said 2-1 Columbus win, 2-1
Yep.
Columbus win. So I hit on that score prediction, and I mean it was just a great overall. I thought it was a great overall game. I mean everything I said happened would happen. Columbus dominated possession, just ripping the ball any chance they get, taking shots everywhere. I mean, they dominated almost the entirety of the game. LA had a couple chances. They just couldn't capitalize until the Dennis Bouanga goal at I think it was like the hour mark of the game, 70th minute mark, but it was already too late by that point. And I mean, Columbus bringing home their third MLS Cup champion, 2008, 2020, and now 2023. So 2 in 3 years, man. 2 titles in 3 years. And to think back in 2018, we thought this team was gone because Anthony Precourt, that piece of shit, decided, I think Austin, Texas deserves a soccer team. And luckily for us, the Armadale law kicked in. And since the team uses taxpayer dollars to fund the stadium, the team can't go anywhere unless they move to another city in Ohio. And honestly, the only place they can move is up to Cleveland.
Yeah.
Because that's the only other big city. So the Cleveland Crew could have been a thing.
Yep. And Jimmy Haslam came in to save the day. One of the few things he has done right around here. It is nice just for that fact too. It kind of helps even more so break the curse of the Haslam curse that I've always thought that he has with the Browns. It's nice for him to get that out of the way once again with the Crew for the second time now. That's legit, and it's huge for the city in general. Like Columbus is an awesome like sports area. It's obviously great for OSU games and stuff, but the soccer is really getting big there, and it's because they have a reason to. It's because the Crew have been so good and so fun for the last few years now that it gives them a reason to go. And the stadium's beautiful. If you guys ever get a chance to go,
The stadium's gorgeous.
It's gorgeous. It's not the craziest, largest stadium ever, but it's built well. It's newer. It's beautiful. Like, I've driven past it. It looks gorgeous. I know they do a lot of the high school, like, state championship games there as well. It's legit.
I need to get you inside that stadium, dude.
I need to. And we will, for sure. Like, that's a guarantee.
Yeah,
but so, yeah.
This is some great history too, because this was the very first team founded in MLS. The very first team in 1996, man. When me and you were just little youngins. In 1996, man, this team was founded. The first team to be recognized by the MLS because they were the first team to hit 10,000 season ticket members in 1996. So that's more than the other 6 teams that were with them. LA, San Jose, Houston, they sold more season tickets than those cities, the big cities, New York. Like, it blows my mind that a city like Columbus said, bring soccer to Columbus in the mid 90s and we'll just follow wherever it goes and we'll support it. And I mean, the support has been nothing but tremendous over the past almost 30 years now. Yeah. Which I hate saying that because I don't want to be 30, but
the fact is we almost are.
I know, that's sad, dude.
It does, it stinks. But yeah, it's crazy. It's nice to have at least something cool going on around here.
And at least it's a championship for the state of Ohio. At least for us Northeast Ohioans, because obviously Cincinnati has
Cavs.
now
Yeah.
since Cincinnati now has an MLS team, and
Uh,
now we hate them obviously. So
yeah.
it's Northeast Columbus Crew's Northeast Ohio's team and Columbus's team. So
Yep.
for this is a win for Northeast Ohio as well, because obviously since the Cavs title, I haven't
We
seen
haven't
much
done much.
since.
Yeah. Yeah. Which I mean, before that was 52 years of a drought. So,
Yeah.
but now we can hop back into another really solid win this week by our good old Brownies. The
Yes,
Browns
sir.
came through once again. And make no mistake about it, the Jags are not a bad team. They're a little beat up, but they still had a majority of their solid guys. I was really surprised that White Boy went and balled out kind of the way he did. You know, he obviously threw 3 picks, but he didn't really look like that ankle was hurting him that much at all. Like he really didn't seem to have a lot of issues on it, and I was really
Mhm.
surprised by that because I mean a high uh, ankle sprain, man, those hurt. Like those are no fun, and if anybody has ever had one and then played on it, you will fully understand that. But
Mhm.
they're rough. So for him to not even show like an ounce of pain at all throughout the entire game, um, kudos to you. But the Browns defense did exactly what we wanted them to. I thought they brought continuous pressure time in and time again. And Garrett looked better. Just the D line itself looked better. They didn't really get to run the ball at all. Um, the only passing game that really did well for them was to Ingram, and that was about it. And then on the offensive side of the ball, Flacco again looked, I mean, incredible. Like it's insane that this dude 3 or 4 weeks ago was chilling at his mom's house watching us play and saying, "Hey, I think I can still play." And he's given us everything that we need and more. And I think as long as you keep that guy healthy, he's going to give you a chance to win every game for the rest of this year. And it's definitely been a blessing in disguise to have Flacco right now. Um, Andrew, what did you think about last week? Because man, oh man, like Flacco wasn't perfect by any means. He did not have the greatest throws. Either he did have turnover too. He had the pick and the fumble as well. But
Yeah.
other than that, he was solid for us.
Yeah, no, I mean, this is pretty much what we would have expected out of him, just being the veteran kind of quarterback he is. And, we talked about him always dominating at Cleveland Browns Stadium against us. Now he gets to do it for us. And I mean, for a guy who sat on his mom's couch just a few weeks ago to throwing for 300 plus yards, 3 touchdowns, uh, and just getting us to a big victory, like, it's incredible. And I was telling other people, it's like, is this what having an NFL quarterback feels like?
Yeah,
Because, like, I mean, the time that we grew up, the team was gone, and then we saw the worst quarterback play our entire existence, and then you know. I told my dad, like, this is like our, like, like our Brian Sipe or our Bernie Kosar,
yeah,
Joe Flacco's our guy. But I thought he played very well. Like you said, he wasn't perfect. He threw the pick, which looked like a miscommunication
yeah.
with him and the
I agree.
receiver. So, because he threw the ball where he wanted it to, it just was just the wrong route, I believe, and it's just
Yeah.
miscommunication. So, it wasn't that big of a deal at that time. I mean, I think we were up like 14-0 when he threw that pick.
Mm.
Um, but other than that, I thought he looked solid. I mean, he looked like a veteran or a veteran quarterback that we needed. And I mean, he just shown his true leadership, especially at his post game speech in the locker room, showing his leadership. Says he feels like a 10-year-old kid again.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm excited to see what he does this weekend. We were back at home. The defense looked really good. Now we have, again, a couple more injuries on the defensive side of the ball. No more Ogbo and no more Hurst. So those guys are down and out. Um, yeah, we're just taking pounding after pounding. But you know what, though? This team still has that resiliency to find a way to win. and I think that's what keeps this team going.
Absolutely. And I do think it's been a breath of fresh air with Flacco, with his
Hmm.
leadership. I think that is the single greatest thing that he brings to this team. Uh, whether he would have played or if he would have sat behind, DTR, his presence alone in this locker room, I think, has been wondrous for this team. And during that post game speech, I mean, everybody was silent. Nobody was talking. Everybody gives him his respect, and it's deserved. I mean, he's a Super Bowl winner. He just brings that, mentality in it. He knows how to win. And I think when
Hmm.
guys see that and now they believe it, within his play, man, that post game speech got me hyped, and I was like, dude, I don't think people get like just how valuable not only just that speech, but even just his presence in
Yeah.
general is being right now for this team. Like he is literally worth just bringing back, uh, for the next year or two, to even sit behind Watson just to give that there, and let DTR even take more of a back seat and say, "Listen, kid, you will get your chance one day. Let's have you learn and understand what it takes." And I think it could even help Watson, for that matter. But man, it's been nice, and that's gonna be the most beneficial thing about him with all of these, injuries that we're starting to get, which you obviously mentioned. We just lost Delpit. He might
Hmm.
be back for playoffs as long as we make the playoffs, which again are not even guaranteed yet, because of how crazy not only the AFC, but if anybody has looked at the current standings, every team in the AFC North is currently within the hunt or in the playoffs as it would sit right now, with about 4 games to go. So the division in itself, first of all, is still wide open, but the whole AFC playoff race right now is going to be a mess, and it's
Yeah.
going to come out to the final week, and we are going to need a guy like Flacco to keep us level headed through everything. And again, I'm going to give my praise once again to Kevin Stefanski. The dude is just coaching some of the best ball that I think we've ever had out of a Browns coach. The dude's a solid leader too. I think everybody rallies and just believes in him. And again, he's not perfect, and he knows
Hmm.
that. I think he owns that. He even said that. But he owns it, and he still finds ways to put guys in a position to win. And when you have that coordinating with a guy like Jim Schwartz, who's just been there and done that and just understands how to coach his side of the ball, I mean, it's just a duo. It's a match made in heaven. And um, we've lost 2 more guys now, with Ogbo and Delpit, and I still have a very firm belief that we can still get into the playoffs. And I said this before the show started. Um, Even us getting into the playoffs in itself for me is as much of a win, I think, as you could ever get, with the amount of injuries that we have dealt with the key guys that we have lost, to these major injuries. It's to even get into the playoffs that proves how valuable of a coach Stefanski is. And if anybody had any doubts before this season, it's gone. Like it's done. Extend him. Um, Keep giving him players. You have 1 more year left of not having a first round pick, and then after that, we finally have picks again, and
Yeah.
everybody can shut up about the Watson trade, and it's just gonna come down to money. And when it comes to that too, the cap just keeps going up anyway. And I don't think
Hmm.
people understand that the cap goes up every year because TV deals increase, rev shares increase, all that stuff matters. And when that happens, the cap keeps going up. So it's not really gonna matter, especially when you have a guy like AB who can work around these contracts and defer a lot of money, or take a lot of this money and putting it into a signing bonus, all that stuff. Like it's valuable info, and I think the Browns are going to be just fine. And I think this is just a very key season for us, regardless of how it ends. But getting into the playoffs would be extraordinary, especially if it ends up being a home playoff game. Oh my lord! If it's a home playoff game, we're winning that game. I'm just
Oh,
letting y'all
100%.
know right now,
Oh,
because
100%.
that stadium will. I mean, if you guys thought that the Guardians' little postseason run a few years ago, um, in beating the Yankees, I think it was there in the wild card. If you thought that stadium went nuts that night, I'm telling you guys, Cleveland football stadium will go ape shit
Oh,
if we win a
absolutely.
playoff game at home, because we
And
haven't
we
had a home playoff game since the 90s.
and we
Or
have
actually, no,
that
sorry,
opportunity.
03, right?
No, O2 was
When
in
oh
O2
two.
was in Pittsburgh. It
Oh,
was in
that's
Pittsburgh
right. Yeah, so it's
because
been a while.
we had that big lead against Pittsburgh, and then with Kelly Holcomb, and then we blew it towards the end.
Bastard. So yeah, it's
So
been a while.
it's been a while. So, but I think people don't realize that too. Like you said, the AFC is so wide open, and we still have a chance at the number one seed. So we even have a chance at a bye
Yeah.
week in the playoffs because all we need is a couple losses to happen and win out. I mean, I'd rather have the home playoff game just for the fact that like it'd just be nice to see a playoff game in our stadium the first time in my lifetime, in
Mm-hmm.
our lifetime.
Oh
I
yeah.
think that'd be incredible. And like you said, I think we would easily win that game. And I don't know, dude, that stadium would be so rocking, and
It'll
it'd
be
be one of those
packed.
games where it'd be that game where you want to go because you can't miss it. I mean, it's that game you have to be involved in, you have to go, and
Yeah.
but no, I think being able to win our division is very very doable. The Ravens have one of the toughest schedules for the final four games of the season. One slip up, and the Browns could easily just jump up top and take it and just have that home playoff advantage and home playoff game.
Yep.
So, as a Browns fan, you're just really hoping that the Ravens just find some way to screw up in the next couple of weeks, maybe lose a couple of games, and the Browns go on a little bit of a run here against Chicago, and then the next couple of games after, and boom, you have that home playoff game. And I kind of hope it's against one of the AFC North opponents too. I just want to batter them one more
Right.
time and just be like, all right,
Right.
let's do it one more time. Let's have a little bit of fun.
Right. Just get one more crack at one of them.
And I wanted to be like the Ravens too. Like, just give me one more crack at the Ravens at home with a real quarterback and not DTR and just
Especially if
Joe
it would
Flacco.
be Flacco to just
Give me Joe Flacco versus the Ravens. Oh, that'd be hilarious.
dude, I didn't even think about that, but like wow, that would be so extraordinary. Like that,
Wouldn't
like
that be funny?
oh my god, especially if he beat them, because it'd be like, hey, this is for replacing me with Flacco too early, because you still could have had me for a few more years, and you
This
wouldn't have
is
even had
this
like you wouldn't
this.
even had his deal. You would have had a better receiving core, all this stuff. Like you would have done so
Yeah.
much more, and they just wanted to move on from him. And look, I get it at the end of the day, but Flacco still has plenty left in the tank, and it's
And he
it's
was
it's
only what,
crazy.
33 at that time
I think
when they let him go
so.
32. He's in his early 30s, so it's not like he was washed up.
No,
He was
not at
still a
all.
really good quarterback.
Yeah, it's sad. Like it really is sad that they
Just
uh
dumped him away.
did that. But I mean, that's the name of the game. Like it's gonna happen that the other way, and it's really unfortunate. But that would be a fun revenge game, especially if it ended up being at home. But even if it wasn't at home, he knows that stadium just as well too.
Yeah,
So
he
it's
knows that
not
place just as well.
like that's why he is the best guy to have in this scenario. He knows how to play in these cold games. He knows how to play in this division in general. And that's important, because that's
Yeah,
one thing that everybody was scared about when it came to Watson was, can you handle these cold months? Well, we haven't really seen him in too many of these cold games. The only cold game we really saw him in was last year against the Saints, and that was a very rough game, and that was also like his second or third game back after 2 years. So like it's like one of those things where it's like I don't really want to judge him on that because he was so rusty. But then
Mhm.
again, it's like now you're seeing Flacco, and you're like, how much rust are we gonna give you before you gotta finally like show us that you can still compete at a high level?
And
And I
and
think,
don't get me wrong, like Deshaun's also 4-1 as a starter for us,
yeah,
and he's putting up great numbers. I mean, is it numbers that you want to see?
no,
I mean, no. I mean, we all want to see him throw for 311 yards as well with 3 touchdowns, but
but he went 14 of 14 with a
with a
broken
broken
shoulder
shoulder.
against the
And
Ravens.
the thing is, people forget like we don't need spectacular number. We don't need
No,
300 yards and three touchdowns.
no,
We just need to win.
yeah,
And and even if you didn't have Joe Flacco, Deshaun Watson still gives you a great chance of winning football games because he does so
yeah,
much with his. If he doesn't have a good throwing game, he'll have a great running game.
yeah,
And people just seem to forget it. I mean, look at Lamar Jackson. When he first started and he was MVP and stuff, look at his MVP year. I think he only threw twice, maybe just over 300 yards. All of his
yeah,
games were 215 yards with one or two touchdowns, but he also ran for like 75 yards with his
mm-hmm,
legs. Like he did what he could to win games. It doesn't have to be, the old days what we're used to with Peyton Manning's and Drew Brees' where they're throwing 330 yards a game. And we don't see that anymore. We're seeing guys who are consistently running the football and are really good at it. You don't see them throwing for no more than 250 yards. So I think when people talk about Deshaun Watson, they need to kind of calm down a little bit
yeah.
because it doesn't have to be 300 yards and three touchdowns every single week. Does he give you the chance to win? Absolutely. He is 4-1 before he got in out for the season.
Um,
4-1. Like that's not a bad record to go out with. And guess what? He's your most winningest quarterback so far that we've had in our past 20 years.
yeah,
So you can hate him all you want, but he's the most winningest quarterback we've had. And I looked it up the other day. Kevin Stefanski, everyone wanted him fired. Again, he's the most winningest head coach we've had since Marty Schottenheimer in the 80s.
yeah, and that's
So
wow,
people want these two guys gone. It's like you're gonna get rid of the most winningest guys on our team.
yeah.
We finally have a winning culture, what we wanted, and you want them to throw it away just to go back to 4-12 every year,
It's
or
because
five
Browns
and 12
fans
now.
always want more. And like I get it, guys. Like I do. I get it as a Browns fan. I've been a Browns fan for
Yes,
20 years. Like I get
same.
it. We don't want to be bad anymore. And I think we've been spoiled because we've been mediocre. We had our good year in 2020 and then we've had chances here and there and we're just impatient. But you now have a like legit ability to build a dynasty here, especially
And
with a
this
guy like Stefanski.
and this is a great time to win too because again, I heard it on ESPN. The AFC is very wide open
It's a
because
mess. Yeah.
the Chiefs are very beatable. The Dolphins are very beatable.
The
The
Bills are
Ravens are
very beatable.
beatable. Every team you have, especially
Yeah.
the ones in the playoffs right now, are undeniably beatable. The
Hmm.
Browns could walk into Chiefs Kingdom right now and go to KC and beat the hell out of them if they wanted to.
Hmm. If
It's
they showed
not,
up with the right game plan, absolutely.
yeah, and it's not like they can't. I mean, we saw KC lose to some of the worst teams in the league this year.
Hmm.
We just saw Miami get their asses kicked by Mike Vrabel and the Tennessee Titans,
Who we killed.
who we
Yeah.
destroyed. And so I mean, these teams are very, very beatable. So every game, especially once we get into the post, every game's like we could win this game. Like this is
Yeah.
there's a good path to the Super Bowl this year if you play your cards right. And if you're the Browns, you could definitely play your cards right. This could be the time we do make it to a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And it's crazy how people just want so much more. It's like I get it, I want more too, but relax. We have the pieces. They just all got injured.
Yeah. And everybody that could be worried about certain guys leaving, I think that's irrelevant right now because I think this team sees what they have and
The
they
culture and that.
understand what's going on and they're like, okay, we're not at full capacity. Imagining this team at full capacity, full charge with our, linemen back, with the most important piece, Chubb, Watson, You have guys back on
Dewand Jones,
defense,
Conklin.
and not even that too. It's the guys that you could potentially add in again in the
Mm-hmm.
offseason and even in the draft. Like, it's amazing that people still think that this team is still so far, or whatever the case might be. Sure, we still have a few guys that we could replace or improve on. I
Mm-hmm.
would definitely like to see our wide receiver group get a little bit better, but they're not. But they're not that far off. They're just young, and
Yeah.
our corners are quite literally some of the best corners in the league right now. That's not even a freaking debate. That's just facts
Oh
at
my
this
god,
point.
the game that MJ Emerson
Our
had
DBs in
too.
general, I mean, our whole backfield on defense is gigantic. Our linebackers have been playing outstanding. Jock is going to definitely get himself a deal with the way he's been playing. Even Taki has played well. Awalk has played well when he's healthy. This defense, the defensive line has gotten a lot better now with the guys that we added last year. Um, and we just have the pieces. We have finally the right mold, and it's time to now we can really build around it and lock it in for a few years and say, all right, let's go. Like,
Yeah.
this is our window now. This will be our window. Everybody thought that our window was going to be with Jarvis and Baker and Odell. That wasn't a window. That was just the start of what this is now. It was the workings of what we have now and what we can build on for the future. And that's what I'm excited about. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, sure, these injuries have sucked. Like, it almost is at that point where you just see another update and you're like, jeez, like, you just have to laugh at this point because it's like, what else?
It's
Like,
just
what else
nonstop.
can you throw? Like, at this point, I'm just numb and just ready to roll. And I think this Browns team is feeling the same exact way. They know what they have to do, and these guys all believe in themselves. And I think it's because they're all prepared well. And Chef Say was on Josh Cribbs's podcast with Big Play, and he was saying something today that I totally agree with. And in the past, the Browns they've always found ways to lose games, or they've always like went down, and you're like, all right, GG. And it's just with this team, you just don't get that feeling much anymore. Like, you always feel like you're still in the game, and it's because these guys like play just the right way, and they genuinely believe that they can come back and they can win these games, and they grit them out, and they're learning how to win. They've learned how to win now. Um, and it's better late than never, but dude, these guys have all of the right pieces. And this is going to be a fun team to watch for the next few years as long as they continue to progress the way that they are right now, because this is what we thought we should have seen after 2020. Like, this is
Yeah.
what we wanted, was that next progression. And really, it was just Stefanski dealing with average QB play for fucking 3 years before we even got anything decent. And now you have, you know, competent quarterback play. It's been fun, but also he's won with four different quarterbacks this year. So if you still doubt Stefanski, just hearing that and then knowing also that we have the best record against winning teams out of any team in the NFL this year, I don't know what else to say. Like, Stefanski deserves a nice extension, and honestly, he's definitely still in the running for coach of the year. I don't even think that's a debate anymore. I think the Lions are a tad bit fraudulent right now because they just lost to Chicago, and I'm gonna say this about Chicago too. Chicago is a team that scares me a little bit because they're young and they're a little hyped up right now. They just came off a
Mm-hmm.
nice win. Um, and Fields plays fearlessly, and that's what I love about that kid. And I think he deserves better than than Chicago, but he's playing well enough to really give us some problems if we let him. And it's going to be up to guys like Jock and Miles and all of them to get to him and just be relentless and match his his sort of physicality in this game in order for us to win this game, because our offense can do it. I mean, they have a decent pass rush, but I believe you just, said, earlier that one of their main rushers are down right now. So all they have is Sweat, and honestly, after that, they really don't have a lot of pass rushing. So we'll see, but these are all winnable games. All of them
Mm-hmm.
are. The hardest one I think after this one is Houston, and then the Jets are going to be fun. I think the Jets are definitely another sort of scarier game. Um, it's going to be fun. It's going to be
And it's a
nerve
primetime game
wracking,
too.
and Browns fans, just buckle up and enjoy this. Like literally, just enjoy this. We are 8-5 right now. This is the best spot we could have been in considering everything. Um, just enjoy this ride, man. Buckle up
It,
and let's fucking enjoy it.
yeah, no, and to be honest too, I think, and me and you have talked about this too. I think 2 more wins get you into the playoffs, guaranteed. Like,
Absolutely.
because now with the AFC being all jacked up, 2 wins will solidify at least the wild card,
Mm-hmm.
and you have one of the best home records in the NFL at, was it 6-1 now, 5-1 now?
Yeah.
So you've only lost one time at home, which was going to happen because you had a rookie quarterback going against the Baltimore Ravens on a 1 hour notice.
Yep.
And I think the biggest beneficiary to us having that nice home record is the fans.
Mm-hmm.
The fans being there in numbers, screaming, yelling at the defense plays so much better. The offense flows a lot better. And those 2 games that we mentioned, Chicago and New York, the games that feel like are going to be the more difficult ones, both of those are at home.
Yeah.
And you have the Jets on primetime Thursday night football too. So we know that game's going to be sold out and loud. And I think with the fans in attendance and the fans there, you could win these games.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I don't see why not where we can't win these last 4 games, because they are very winnable games.
Yep.
It's not like these games are very out of reach. I mean, the Houston Texans, we talked about, they look scary, but
They're
they've been
very beat up right now.
they're very beat up because they have just as many injuries as we do. I think they have the most in the league right now with 19 injuries. So they're
Mm-hmm.
just as beat up as we are.
Yeah.
And guess what? Because of it, I think they've lost the last few games they've played.
Mm-hmm.
So they're on a bit of a bad run of form, and now you're catching them at a great time because now they're starting to lose and lose quite a bit. And this is your chance to one up them. This is your chance to go play Chicago, who you last year or 2 years ago, excuse me, you played Chicago and you sat Justin Fields 9 times in that game.
Yeah.
Can you do it again this coming Sunday? Can you get to Justin Fields as often as you did? Their offensive line still isn't the greatest. Now, like I told Zach earlier, Yannick Ngakoue, their second best pass rusher, is now out for the rest of the season after breaking his ankle. They have just Montez Sweat, so they don't have much of a pass rush after that. So you could definitely start attacking out of the air because their secondary isn't really all that spectacular. Their defense really isn't all that spectacular besides the front seven, besides the front four that they have, and those guys are all beat up, and so they have nothing but backups there. So this could be another 300+ yard Flacco game, and this is a very attackable game. The only thing that worries me is just with how our defense is beat up. What can Justin Fields do against us? I guess a beat up, and that's the more scary. I'm not worried about the defense. I'm worried about their offense.
Yeah.
And if you get Denzel back, that's a huge plus. If you have Denzel back, because that's a massive.
And I think he will.
And I think he will, because then you have him to mark up DJ Moore, and that's the only receiver you really have to worry about besides their tight end Cole Kmet.
And honestly, even if you didn't want Ward on Moore, you still have Emerson,
MJ, yeah,
who had two
picks.
picks last week. Dude, what an unbelievable kid he has turned to. He's only in year 2, and this kid is turning into a top 5 corner in the league already. It's so impressive.
fourth round draft pick, fifth round
Third.
draft pick.
Yeah,
Oh, was
third,
he
I
third?
think. Yeah, I think. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he was a third round pick. I mean, he
Third
was.
round draft pick, and he's playing like the number one DB in the league.
Yeah, and he's built perfectly for that type of position too. I think he's 6'2". He's fast enough to cover. You know,
He
it.
actually tackles.
Yeah, he tackles well. He's confident as all hell. Like the kid's just been lights out. So like again, even if you didn't have Ward in that case, like you still have the ability to have him guard him. But having Ward, I think, will be very nice. Again, because I don't want Mike Ford on the field anymore.
Yes,
At least in
none of us do.
coverage. And it stinks because that dude also is built nicely. Like he's like also 6'1" or 6'2" or something like that. But he's just in coverage. He just gets burnt by everybody. I don't know what it is about him. He just doesn't have the awareness to do it. But having Ward and Newsome and and EJ, like it's just man,
And Newsom had a great game last week
yeah.
too. He
I
he had
mean,
to pick himself.
yeah. I mean, he pretty much caught a streak for
I know
himself.
he looked like a wide receiver on
Essentially,
that play.
he
That thing
really
fell right to
did.
his hand.
Like he really did. And yeah, this defense just came to play, and I just hope that Schwartz keeps them locked in and says, "Hey guys, listen, I know
We're
these
beat up.
injuries have sucked, but keep fighting, keep coming.
Mhm.
Like we will continue to do our jobs." Honestly, Hickman looked great, I think in my opinion.
He looks solid.
Yeah, he looks solid. He's going to be a nice, solid guy for this, rotation. We just added that Roneman or Honeman. I forget what his name is, but
Oh, Harmon.
oh, yeah, Hardman, and he's a three-time Super Bowl champ apparently. So like the dude just he's a solid vet, nice guy to throw in. That's great. Like that's what we needed, especially if Thornhill is going to be out. You just need guys that can help uh, in this, rotation until Thornhill gets back in. And even then, you still want him there because I know Schwartz likes to have those three safety sets a lot too. So um, that could very well help us in a lot of ways. So um, yeah, I'm still very optimistic about everything. And this is, again, as we've said all year long, this is the easiest part of our schedule, or theoretically it should be. Once you get past the Bears, I mean, Houston, yeah, they're going to be tough, but um, see, Stroud doesn't have anybody to throw to right now. He has literally nobody to throw to.
Yeah, his guy
And
Nico Collins is injured.
yeah, and their run game has been atrocious as well. So, um, they've been in a lot of shootouts, but they got dismantled last week.
By the
Stroud got hurt
Jets.
too. I think he got a concussion, so he's been in protocol for that. So, um, you
You might
know,
have a chance to face no CJ Stroud next week because if he
yeah,
does fail that protocol, CJ Stroud's going to be out for that week.
yeah. Which I mean, I don't expect him to, but you never know.
Yeah.
And again, like the Jets looked good, but it's still the Jets, and it's still Will Wilson. So I think if you bring pressure to him and you destroy his confidence, he gets back down to throwing picks and just not doing good reads. And after that, I mean, the Bengals hopefully by that last game we're in and we
Yeah.
can rest guys. But otherwise, I still think the Bengals are still a dub, even if it is in their home field. Like I don't care how good Jake Browning looked the last 2 weeks. If we can smother Burrow, we can smother Browning. We can
Yeah.
dismantle them. So like the Bengals are just not a team that I fear anymore. I really don't. I don't fear them at all. In fact, I think they almost fear us at this point. They hate playing us, and I know that for a fact. And I think the Browns use that to their advantage. Um, so if you win two more games, I think that is a lock in terms of playoff race.
Mhm.
It just depends on what seed at that point. But if you still have a chance to go at this division, why the hell not? Like,
Just go for
especially
it.
when it's so wide open. Everybody in this division anyway is still fighting for a playoff spot. Although I think the Steelers are going to get probably bumped out here soon because they still don't have Kenny Pickett back. So they got Trubisky back there, which, I mean, Is he any better? No.
Definitely
Um,
not.
and it is hilarious too. Flacco has like one less t- touchdown, I think, than Kenny Pickett does, which is that just shows you how bad that kid has been this year. Where he doesn't have any more than 6 touchdowns passing. That is, I don't know how Steelers
Yeah.
fans are still alive, to be honest. Like I really don't. They are probably losing their minds over there.
Y- Yeah, and talking about the division too. I mean, the last remaining 4 games for Baltimore are
San Fran is
literally
one of them.
they have Jacksonville this weekend at Jacksonville. Mind you, these next 2 games are away for them. They're at Jacksonville this weekend, which again is not an easy win, not an easy opponent. We just got happy. We're happy to play them while they're beat up in our
And
place.
at home, yeah.
Uh, then next week on Christmas, like you said, they play Monday night on Christmas against the San Francisco 49ers in San Fran. So that's a very, very difficult game.
Yeah.
Then they're at home versus Miami on New Year's Eve. And then they have their final game on the 7th against the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah.
So those 4 games aren't the easiest. Now, I'm sure they could beat Pittsburgh. I mean, at this point, everyone's going to probably beat up on Pittsburgh now.
All right.
But the next 3 games for the Ravens are not, they're not easy, man. They got the Jags, the 49ers, and the Dolphins, all division leaders. And they struggled against the Rams this past Sunday too. Like they struggled
They
hard
almost
against
lost
the
that.
Rams.
Yeah.
And they almost lost that game. And then you talk about the likes of Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh have the Colts, the Bengals, the Seahawks, and the Ravens. So not super easy. Even when you have Big Ben saying that the Steelers tradition might be over and done, like it could be very well done and dusted because that team looks like they have zero tradition. They look like they have zero locker room confidence. I mean,
Yeah.
Pickens is
That's gonna
pissing
be
off.
that's gonna be a fun off season thing to watch just unfold.
Just come to Cleveland.
Yeah.
I'd be happy to take
Everything.
George Pickens.
I mean, we could have drafted him, but we all knew that he came with a attitude issue, and that's why
Yeah,
we didn't
big
get him.
baggage.
Like that's why a lot of teams passed on him. He has the talent. Like he's Odell like talent, but his attitude is literally like Odell, if not even worse. I mean, if he's not getting the ball, he's totally unhappy, and he's gonna throw fits, and he's just not really a team guy.
Yeah.
And I just know that the Browns didn't want that, and I'm glad because I mean we got Tillman, this past year, and I'm telling you, man, he's starting to
Tillman's
look
a
better.
stud.
I love it. Like he's starting to take on that same projection that DPJ did in what was it 2018 or
Yeah.
19, I think, when he started to come in. Started out much later in the season after Odell went down, and he started playing well, and Tillman's just been a reliable guy. He's caught the ball pretty well, and he makes plays after the catch. So I'm excited for him to get more reps and just get more into this offense. And then also shout out to David Bell for getting that clutch 4th and 3 touchdown. What a touchdown that was. For Flacco to know that blitz was coming, get it out quickly as a smart as a smart QB would do. Dude, that was such a great play off
Well,
his
and it's
back
funny.
foot.
It just looked so funny too because it looked like Bell and it was Elijah Moore, and they looked like they were running the same exact like
Yeah, they
slant
were.
route,
Yep.
and
And Bell knew
then
it.
Bell just stopped like right in the middle, and
Yep.
then Elijah Moore carried both defender. Bell, yeah, he carried Bell's defender with him,
Yep.
and the guy who was covering Bell slipped and fell, which
Yep.
made Bell super wide open.
He just ran it
All I had
in.
to do was just catch turn, and he was gone.
Yeah. I mean, it's the easiest score of your life, and again, it it was a very clutch play. It was a very
Yeah,
key moment because we needed that. Because I mean, if we didn't get that, the Jags probably would have won that because our defense just started just slowly dying out towards the end. They
yeah.
just couldn't buy a freaking stop. But
let alone a call too, because that pass interference on A
And that's
Walker
another
was
thing too. I
yeah.
mean, we had news about, the Chiefs and all this stuff, but it's like we've been dealing with this stuff week in and week out,
For
and
20
it
years.
it, it just yeah, and it's every year, and there's other teams that deal with the same crap, and they're not nearly as loud as these teams like the Chiefs and the Eagles, who always bitch complain about these calls, and it's like you guys have won at the highest levels. You've gotten calls in your favor a lot. Don't be doing that. The Browns have gotten a few calls this year that that were in like in our favor, sure, but
But we
that
deserve those.
there's a first time for everything at this point, and with everything that we've gone through, I'll fucking take it because
Well, and it's
we
not a
have needed
good.
it.
And just to piggyback off of this, our buddy Nick Padone made a great point about this too on Big Play. He said, it's not a good look for the NFL when you have one of the best coaches in NFL history and Andy Reid complaining about the refs, the best offensive weapon in the NFL, and Patrick Mahomes complaining about the officials. And the same day, you had Myles Garrett complaining about the officials, your best defensive player in the league.
Yeah.
All three complaining about officiating. That's not a good look if you're Roger Goodell when you have the best players and the best coach now saying, listen, these refs got to be better. Because I think Miles literally said, like, I could have had 2 sacks, but I was held badly on both of them when I
Yeah.
was free and no flag was thrown. Like, are they just prone to just not throwing the flag on holding calls anymore for offense?
Yeah.
I mean, for the Browns, I mean, it gets called every single second. Like, every time we have a big play, up and it's called back for a holding.
Yeah.
But when someone else gets a massive play, there's a blatant hold.
Nothing.
It even had to be on Miles. I mean, I've seen on Hurst and Zadarius
Um,
Smith, and it's like,
I
where's
mean,
the
there was a
fucking
missed
flag?
fall. Well, I mean, there was a
False
missed
start.
fall start there too on that one throw
Yeah,
to Washington.
the interior. Well, there's a false start too on Jacksonville.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like,
On their touchdown that they
yeah,
had after the bad PI call on Anthony Walker.
yeah, like
The guy literally picked his head up on the line, looked around, was never set again, and then they snapped the ball. It's like that's a false start. Like,
yeah,
hey, like you can't. Only the center could look up and look around, not the interior offensive lineman. He can't do that.
yeah. I mean, it's just been missed call after missed call, and it's been. I mean, it stinks too because guys like Garrett and them are just gonna get fined, and
Yeah.
nothing else happens. Nothing, and that's what truly pisses
And
me off
well,
about the
and,
whole
and Miles said it
officiating thing
best.
in general.
And Miles said it best. We as players we get held accountable
Absolutely.
when we talk about fishing and stuff like that. But why do the officials never get held accountable when something
Like
goes
they
wrong?
need,
Like they should.
yeah,
Someone should look over the officials and hold them accountable when they screw up.
yeah,
And Miles said it best when he said that. They should be held accountable just as we're held accountable. The fact that they don't get fines or suspensions or whatnot for their blatant disregard for the game, it's not fair to us that we can't sit there and talk about it because we'll get hit with a $20,000 fine,
yeah,
but this dude can blatantly hold me on a game-winning sack or a tackle or whatever and throw for a touchdown, but yet he doesn't get fined or suspended for it, or the blown PI call on Walker, he doesn't get fined or suspended for that, or the jacked up, I look my head up and I'm looking like a fucking meerkat on the line of scrimmage as an
yeah,
offensive lineman. I don't get flagged for false start. Like, when do those guys get fines and held accountable and suspended? That's when I said a few weeks ago that we should interview refs after the game and get their
yeah,
input, like start putting them under pressure of the media and stuff. Like, hey, so I know I would love to be in that meeting room. Like, hey, so why'd you fuck up?
yeah,
And just listen to what they have to say of like why they blatantly blew that call.
yeah,
And it just makes you wonder why a lot of these guys are still around as officials. Because, like, I get it, you're officials for a long time, but every time they brought up an official's name, like, as they're doing the call, and it's like, oh, he's been officiating in the NFL for 35 years. Cool. I don't think we need another official from the mid 80s
no,
that's been doing it since the mid 80s. I think your time has come, my guy. I think there was one who I think it was a Super Bowl ref last year. I don't. He wasn't the main ref, but he was a sideline ref, and I think he's been around since like the late 70s. It's like these guys are getting way too old, and these guys are, and you can tell they're slow. Like they
Mm,
can't keep. It's like you need guys who can keep up, who have a good eye, who don't miss calls, who don't need LASIK eye surgery, who don't need glasses all the time. You need these guys to be in line, in position. I mean, we see. I can't tell you how many times we've seen officials struggling just to line up in time where you have the players like literally like, dude, you gotta be right here right now, like boom, like they're like
yeah.
pushing to like right here. And it's like it's getting bad when that starts to happen because they're just so far out of position now. It's like, hey, you need to be right here right now, like
Yeah.
stop or they're trying to spot the ball and they're sitting there sprinting downfield. They got 50 yards to, and they're trying to like, we gotta spot the ball, we got 10 seconds, we gotta hurry the
Yeah.
fuck up, like, and you're taking forever to get downfield.
There definitely needs to be some sort of either age gap uh, for that job
Pay
um,
them less because
or
there's
yeah,
no
or pay
reason
them less.
there's no reason these guys should be making 350K a year just to be that
That's
bad.
absurd. That is absurd, especially
They should
when
be
high
making as
school
much.
refs aren't even doing.
They're doing it for free,
Yeah, they're doing it for free on a Friday night.
and they're making better calls than you are.
I mean, there's some that are and some that aren't, but
Yeah,
yeah, and it's just
I think they should
again,
get paid.
you just need to hold them all accountable. Stop with this you know,
And
having
we're
to
seeing
make
it.
excuses here and here and here. It's
Yeah,
just
and
it's getting old.
we're seeing it across all the leagues: the
Mm,
NFL, the NBA, the MLB, the MLS. All these guys are just out here collecting a paycheck now, and I think that's their mentality. Is like, listen, we don't care what's going on. We're just collecting a paycheck.
mm-hmm.
And play again. Miles said it. Players get investigated for PEDs. They get investigated for gambling and stuff like that. Why don't referees get
Yeah.
looked at for gambling? Who knows? They could have betted on this game. They could have betted the over on total points.
Yeah.
Why aren't these guys being looked at for sports betting and stuff like that? And, it makes no sense. Like, if you're gonna be an NFL official, I think you should get, until you're really good and you're really consistent. I think you should be making about as much as you and me, around like 50, 60K a year.
Right.
There's no reason you should be making 350, 400 grand a year to be so fucking bad at your job.
Yeah.
And I guarantee you, half those guys are making bets and stuff like that.
I
There's
truly
no
believe
shit.
that that is like a thing that it had. I mean, it definitely has been going on for years. It's
One
just a
guy came on a
question of
podcast
when.
and said it, that he's like, oh yeah, I was gambling on games all the time.
Yeah.
Now he's like,
Yeah.
he's like, I wouldn't gamble on games that I refed on because
Yeah.
obviously it's like I didn't want to get caught refing a game I betted on, but it's like I bet on games all the fucking time,
Right.
and
And also
it's not
you got to think
good.
if they have friends that are being like, "Hey man, I had, this bet, be a little friendly over here." Like that I'm sure that stuff happens.
And they're getting
Like
cuts
there's
from that people too. They're probably getting cuts like, hey, listen, if
yeah.
you let me hit this bet, like this bet's for $5,000 to win $75,000, I'll give you like half.
Yeah, like I'm telling you, there's no way that stuff isn't like a part of this game in some way. There's no way it's not. It has been for years. I've heard stories. I know
Yeah,
people that know a lot of things
there's former
about
refs who
these.
admitted to it.
Yeah, and there's been people caught. Obviously. So like again, like it happens, but they need to stop letting the refs be so fragile to criticism because
Yeah, we'll throw
they just
bottles at
can't
them
handle
again.
it. Yeah, like they just can't handle it, and it's so pathetic that Goodell still hasn't done anything about it. I hope that becomes an off-season thing, especially with the rules and stuff that are going to be changed. Obviously the tackling is going to get a little bit of a shift in like what's legal and and what's not. So you might as well address it all while you're doing stuff like that. And if you don't, I mean, these players and coaches are just going to continue to bitch and bitch and bitch. And, especially when it genuinely affects the way the game plays, that's not fun. That's not good for the game. And you just don't want games to be dictated by a single call or a line of calls. that determined the entire outcome of the game. That's not how the game should be played. And it's sad that that has been a thing for many, many years. And even just this year alone, that has been the case for a lot of teams. A
I
lot.
also one last point too, like isn't it in college that they don't start the clock until the referee spots the ball and like they touch the ball and spot it? Like
I think so.
I don't see why the NFL doesn't do that. If you're gonna have all these like old ass officials
Yeah.
and they're trying to sprint 30 yards and it takes them 30 seconds to get down there, why don't you stop the clock, wait for them to spot the ball and everyone gets set, and then you restart the clock?
Well, I know in college, as soon as you get the first down,
That's what it is. It's the first down. They stop the
yeah,
clock, and then
yeah,
until
and
the
it just
referee
plays
spots the
it, yeah,
ball,
and then it
and
goes.
until like the center puts his hand on the ball, they start the clock again. Like, why
Yeah,
don't they do that for the NFL? Like,
yeah. I don't know. Like it doesn't make sense. Like especially when, those kids are trying to fight to get into the pros. Like
yeah,
you should try to align a lot of these rules for college and footballs that way. It's not too much of a different task for them to learn, because
I've been trying to
it's
get the
one thing.
overtime rule for the NFL or
Yeah, for
the college
real,
OT rule
man.
into the NFL because we don't need ties in the NFL.
No, we don't. Just put them at the 25 or 35 yard line, have them go for it, and just let them sling it until the very end. Because we don't need these like 8 minute overtimes that end in no points, and then oh, guess what? They tied. That does nothing for
It
anybody. In fact, it makes playoff races even worse, and it's just
it doesn't even help you because it
yeah,
adds like point 0.001 to the fucking tally.
yeah,
Like, cool, it doesn't do shit. It's not like soccer where you get where a ties
yeah,
actually mean something in soccer. It
right,
doesn't. It means nothing to football. So why the guys are ties in the NFL? Just
right.
adopt the college overtime rules. Let them sit at the 25. And if the Browns score first and the other team does it, boom, cool, game's over.
Yeah,
Done, dusted. Game's
yeah,
over. Like it takes. It's probably a lot faster. It's more efficient. You don't sit there and wait. You do a 10-minute quarter, and then it's
mm-hmm.
like, okay, well the game's over. Well, you both tied, so sucks to suck, guys.
Yeah, like that's just not how that goes. Like it's not how it should go, and it's sad that is still a thing too. Like there's just so
Yeah,
much wrong still with pro rules, um, and they need to adjust a lot. Like Goodell needs to fix the refereeing,
yeah.
just across the board, or at least hold them accountable in a different way, or let every single call have the ability to get replayed. Straight up.
Yeah.
It's okay to use replay because at least then you will get the call right. And then you can admit, hey, we missed that. This is why we did this.
Yeah.
Nobody would ever complain about that because you'd be like, well, replay's replay. You know,
They looked
game
at
is
it and they
game.
saw this different. Yeah.
Yeah, like I'm sure everybody would be on board with that. I don't know why they don't make that a thing. And again, it's just another thing that they probably won't do. And if they do,
Every
it'll be years before it happens.
every flag should be reviewable.
Yeah, every flag and every major call like that should be reviewable. It's
Well, I
just like
remember
the
they
last
had,
2 minutes of the game when everything can get reviewed. Same thing, just for the whole freaking game. Just make it a
I
whole game.
well, I remember after this blown call against the Saints, the Rams and Saints game, the blatant PI call,
Yeah.
which made the Rams go to the Super Bowl. I remember they made PI calls reviewable. Like you could challenge a PI call and
Yeah.
whatever. And I can't remember the guy's name who was the head of like something like that, but he was a douchebag.
Yeah. I
And
remember
he
that.
said like, and he told all the officials like, whatever the calls on the field, just stick with that call. Even if you go and review it, just stick with your call. And I think they got like 10% of the calls right on the PIs, and it's like, and the guy's like, to be honest, I just didn't like that pass interferences could be reviewed, so I just told him to all just fuck it up basically, just so it doesn't be reviewable anymore. And it's like that's so disheartening and sickening. Like you're
Mm,
ruining the game even more by just having them do that. Like
yeah.
why? Like it makes
All
no
because you
fucking
have a
sense.
fragile ego and you just can't
Yes.
admit that you're wrong. Because it's okay. Like people can be wrong and still correct it. And then you just have it right. and then everything's right in the world, and then the game continues.
Imagine 2020 if we had that call review where Sorensen fucking beamed Higgins.
I mean, honestly, dude, like sometimes I do think about that just like
We probably
randomly,
could
and
have
I'm
won that
like,
game.
not only that, when you think about that moment too, like, I mean, we could have easily like at least gone to the AFC Championship game, but also Baker would probably still be here had that game
At this time, yeah.
gone differently. Like he would have gotten a new
The contract
deal.
extension, yeah.
He would have gotten the ability to be with this team long term, and like that's one of the things I feel bad for with him too. Is like eh, he was just never ever really the same after that, and it stinks for him. And like I know he's doing decent, in Tampa, in Tampa Bay. They won last week too, but they won like barely, and it was to Atlanta. So, and they're still like 6-7, I think, and they're still at the top of their division. So that just shows you
Yeah.
how bad that division is. Um, yeah, it's incredible to think about. But yeah, the refs gotta stop being so fragile and just admit that you're wrong sometimes, correct it, and keep the game clean and respectable. And it's just not right now, and it's sad because
Yeah.
it's ruining games. My goodness, we are already at an hour. We were gonna talk a little bit about Cavs and OSU, but honestly, the Cavs are kind of just mid right now. I still want JB fired, so I don't
Agreed.
really need to talk too much about that. But OSU, obviously, they're getting ready to prepare for their bowl game, and it sounds like Devin Brown's going to be the quarterback there. Everybody is starting to hype him up, a little bit. So before we go, I just want to ask, how do you feel about them going with him over Keyholtz or whatever the heck his name is, the other red shirt? What do you think about them deciding to go with Brown here?
I just think that Brown's a little bit more athletic. I think we saw Brown being used every so often, like in the red zone and such like
Hmm.
that for Ohio State over the course of the season, and he just reminds you of like all the quarterbacks of the past at Ohio State who can run the ball very well. The only question I have is can he sling the ball like they can?
Yeah.
So that's what my only main thing. But and again, that redshirt freshman kid again, who's to say he could sling the ball too? And
Hmm.
I just think Devin Brown is the more, I guess, at this point, quote unquote, veteran of the team
Yeah.
at that point. So you're just going with the next best guy available. And I mean, if the boys have trust in Devin Brown, then I do too.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, everybody's starting to hype him up. I know Ibuka, I think, was the one that said that he slings the rock just fine. He obviously can, create with his legs. And I think that's what uh, makes him a little more valuable in this instance because that's what we've missed and that's what we talked about with Cord was that's his one issue was he was just so one dimensional and with Brown at least he gives you that you know option and I think it could really open up the other offense a little bit so we'll see how how
Yeah.
they look. I think Missouri is going to come into this game ready to go. They're going to be tough. It's obviously a SEC team, so they're going to be solid on defense. I don't really know how great their offense is, but I'm sure it's pretty decent if they're a top 10 team. So it'll be interesting. But it was very cool to hear a lot of these guys really just backing the kid
Hmm.
and just being like, hey, he's our guy, and that's fine. We are cool with it. We're not worried about the McCord stuff in it. We really haven't. It is what it is, and to be told, you know, they did it. They did it. They definitely wish him best. My God, I can't speak. I'm ready to go. I'm going to freaking New York this weekend, guys. So, your boy's gonna be. And I was also sick all this week, so I'm just
Yeah.
recovering big time.
He's just ready to
Um,
go.
but yeah, with Brown, we'll see what he does. I was never really impressed with his arm throughout the year, but he made some good throws here and there. So we'll see if he could be a little bit more consistent. I would also like him to change his freaking number. I don't like
Number
quarterback.
33.
I don't like quarterbacks being the actual like the number of a running back or a DB or something. I don't like it.
Yeah, it looks weird.
Yeah, it does. It does. All right. Well, that is all that I have. Andrew, you got anything else before we hop off here? Oh, final prediction for Browns.
There you go. Final prediction for the Browns. I have the Browns. Oh man, now I can go high scoring because we actually scored some points last
All
week.
right.
Um, I'm gonna go with 27-17 Browns.
Okay. I didn't really think about this one too much. I do think this could be a little bit of a shootout randomly. I think the
Yeah,
Bears are gonna come in and really try to score the ball. I think Fields is gonna really use his legs a lot this game. I think it's gonna depend on how guys like Jock can get to him. I'm saying Browns 31, Bears 23.
okay.
I don't think it's gonna be super close, but it's gonna be fun. I do think this game is gonna be fun. I also won't be surprised if this ends up being low scoring. It just depends on the
Yeah,
weather, which I think it's gonna be fine. I think it's gonna be pretty standard. So
I think it's just gonna be like partly cloudy skies, but it's
yeah,
just gonna be like 40 degrees.
yeah. So I mean, it's gonna be standard December football around here, which is
Yep.
totally fine with me. As long as Flacco stays upright and we don't make a lot of mistakes, this should be a dub. But yeah, the Bears are scary. They're playing good, so I certainly expect them to stay in this game and not be
Yeah.
totally out of it, right away. So we'll see how it goes.
We'll see.
All right, guys, that is going to do it for us this week. We will see you guys next week, hopefully, with the Browns at potentially 9-5 after this week. Let's go, Brownies.
Let's go Brownies.